Good. Okay. This meeting, the regular meeting, the Perry Board of Education of the local school district is called to order at 5 p.m. in the Tarbrook Center Conference Room. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Foley,
Here.
Mr. Leidig,
Here.
Mr. Robert,
Here.
Mrs. Presser, here, Mr. Welch.
Here.
Please stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag
Of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Does anyone have any committee reports? I do. Three.
I guess we did just have a meeting.
We did have.
Like, look at her report.
We also had our governmental affairs meeting, last week. Really, I don't think a whole lot to report out of that.
I was time limited to my
Jack
update.
fulfilled his time limit. We know that the power plant submitted for their renewal to continue their operation, and that seems to be going well from what we heard. Any other significant news in that meeting? Okay. Jesse and I just had a meeting with Dr. Milcheski and Mr. Chisholm regarding wellness, student wellness. Surveys were just released, or surveys just went out to our students last week,
5 through 12.
5 through 12, grades 5 through 12. So they'll be completing those surveys electronically in school at some point during the day, and they only take about 5 or 6 or 7 minutes. And anything else you want to add? Pretty much it.
Yeah.
A significant piece to that.
Well, actually, the wellness rooms, not wellness rooms, what do I want to call them?
Calm.
The
space.
calming spaces or the chill out spaces or whatever you want to call them. The high school is actually going really well. The middle school, it's in place. They're still doing some fine tuning of how to utilize that space with minimal, if any, supervision. But they're supposed to be great additions to both buildings. So that's a nice thing that some of our students actually put in place last year. They worked really hard in services class to do all that. So
Those sound very positive. Yeah,
Yeah.
thank you. Anyone else on the board have any committee updates at this point? No other meetings? Okay, so we do have some guests with us that we'd like to welcome, that I believe we do have an update from our Perry Recreation Department. Since we have 2 individuals that we as a board have appointed to serve on the Perry Rec Board, we have Mrs. Allison Trentinelli and Mr. Ryan Yeager with us to provide us with any updates that they may have coming from the rec department. So I thank you both for being here.
So the rec department's in some place of transition at this point, as you probably all have heard from our updates. So we lost Mr. Bill, so he resigned to take a more significant position with his church and to do some speaking. So they hired 2 assistant rec directors at a split contract to help support the current rec director. We also know that there's going to be shifting in the board coming up soon. Both Mr. Casella and Mr. Amos are not running for re-election, so we're looking at least 2 new folks who will be serving on the board. So I think to that end, we're just looking for some guidance. We've talked about with a lot of you guys in here, just about where things are going and what the school wants to see. And Dr. Milcheski was terrific and gave us some insight on what she's looking for this summer when it comes to Perry Rec. But we know that we're in a place where there's some transition. We just want to make sure we're adequately representing what the board wants to see happen with Perry Rec to benefit our students and the seniors.
no, spot on.
Thank you. Anyone wanna respond? Or
I
any
think the most
questions first?
important thing is making sure that we're on the same page as far as the summer stretch program and summer rec programs. I know a lot of our students rely on that, and it goes hand in hand with our program. So as long as that's being done and there's communication there, that's, I think, the first priority.
I'll agree and ditto that. I think we've always had a great relationship with Perry Rec. And in terms of our space and our facility usage, so that's always been a great relationship there. I know this, as far as the sports go, we've always aligned with, there's been a lot of communication with our athletic director, with TJ, and with our coaches, down to the youth coaches, to just kind of talk about what programming we have at high school and the middle school level and what their philosophies are as it relates to certain sports, to just continue those great partnerships and relationships. Those are ongoing, those never end. If the framework and that already exists And then the people that move in and out of those roles shouldn't matter. It should just be a continuous partnership as we go through. I think that's important. I also want to say that so the summer rec piece, the summer stretch that we had in the past, if we need to have conversations around what that looks like, that we can certainly do that. The PSL students are always fantastic, and we want to continue that relationship. That is a critical piece that always is very supportive of the Perry Rec Department. And then anything we can do to support the senior center. I know they usually have a luncheon here and these kinds of things. So just continue the things that
Yeah.
our district has always supported.
So having been at the last meeting, birth from board, did, if I recall, so I know summer rec programs are being kind of put in question because I believe that the 2 hires for the 1 position that they're gonna split, no one is available during the day to even oversee that program, correct?
Correct.
Yes.
Okay, so I know that was one of your guys' concerns.
Absolutely, and so after that, Dr. Malchowski gave us her emerging vision, is that probably a good way to put it?
Yes,
Of
my
what that
fear
might
is
look
the
like.
funding agent though is no longer in schools, so I get really concerned. I think it's earlier than better, we all get together to discuss, because it was very much easier when the school was the funding fiscal agent, and we're no longer the fiscal agent for 21st century funds, so that's our barrier.
So I guess to answer your question, what you were saying there is I did a follow-up conversation with the rec director, and what his comment was that he could use the funding should it come from the fiscal agent to hire someone specifically for that position out of that grant funding to run a summer rec.
And still look at having it for just a couple weeks.
Yeah, I mean, we didn't get any
Get that
farther than the
far.
conversation that we had while we were there, and I think if we follow what we traditionally done in the past, it's been a 4-week program. And again, now with Great Day involved, I think that changes what the daily logistics look like. So it's probably important for us either probably January, not necessarily March, if we fill the information, to have Dr. Malchowski come to, or anyone else who's interested, come to a rec board meeting so we can start to clarify what we want to see happen with that and what funding is in place to make sure it can happen.
Okay, so then, I guess, you probably don't know this right now, because nothing has happened, but so in the event they'd have to hire a 3rd person just for that, instead of someone who's actually available, do you know did they discuss maybe where that money's gonna come from, where that salary would come from?
I mean, if we follow what's been traditionally done in the past, it came from 21st century to
Right.
pay for that. So if that pathway is still available, I think that's probably an important conversation.
We no longer have that grant though.
Right, it's through-
That $850,000 grant that we had received
Correct.
called 21st Century funded that position. No longer does, because we did not
Right,
get awarded that grant this year.
Funded a stipend for at-risk kids to attend an experience that they normally would never have been able to experience, because they would have had the money to come to summer rec. So it had things like lunch and enrichment and sports all went into a fee, and then however rec distributed those funds to pay their needs. That's how that was handled.
so, and I guess, sorry, go ahead.
I was just thinking, before we had that grant, before summer stretch was a thing, there was Perry Rec in general, way back when. I know my kids went to it. So it was a fee that the parents paid, where your kids just went for a few hours a day. And the high school kids worked during summer rec, like a little summer camp during the day here on our facility. But I don't think that was funded by the district.
No, and the director.
I want to say the parents paid for it.
Right now, so that this summer, before he came in, it was 15 kids that attended. Then when summer stretch came in, it was 68 students to 83 on a given year that attended. So it's pretty robust with the grant.
Okay,
We still have students who attended just last summer, just as typical students who paid an enrollment fee, but probably less than 20 kiddos, but a total population of, 55 students. The majority made up by 21st century population.
okay.
There is still the structure that exists, just the students paying the tuition.
Yeah, because that's what I thought, when summer rec was summer rec, just summer rec, parents paid a fee.
Yeah.
$35 a week or something, it was really inexpensive. But it probably just covered the kids working, the high school kids that were being paid to work there, I'm assuming. maybe supplies and stuff like that. Anybody
And
else
I
remember
think
that?
our interests are just what happens to students furthest from opportunity. Because the grant, even though we're not a part of it, but it was written for kids to come to summer programming, that was year-round programming. We, the school year was that, so
Okay,
it's interesting now that, yeah.
So I do want to thank both of you, having been in that last meeting. Because it got a little interesting, to say the least, at a few moments, with one of the other members. But you two have been fantastic representatives for us, and if anyone ever had even, which I doubt anybody's had, the slightest doubt, you two are the right two people to be there representing this district. You did an outstanding job. You were all calm and kept your cool and everything like that during those few moments there. So thank you. You guys are outstanding.
Thank you.
You do want to
Thank
continue
you.
doing it. Right?
What's their punishment? So the designation of Bill and Rick, that'll happen 12/31, and then the entities will assign somebody new.
Correct.
just like we would, right, in January,
Yeah.
Thank you.
unless you, so we would have to, I think we would open up, or if you're interested in, we would appoint you again, unless you decline you. So, yeah,
The opportunity.
I don't think we have. to,
And
but-
are the emails that we send helpful?
Yes.
Yes.
Very much so.
Yeah, very
It's good to know
much.
what's going on.
That's perfect, yeah,
Perfect. We'll
thank you.
continue.
Hopefully we answered your question, as far as,
No, you did, and I
Okay.
think, right, I said, it's, we don't know what we don't know, and so
Right,
as we keep asking questions to learn more about the history, I think we discover something new every time we have a conversation, which is really important. And just making sure that, again, students' interests are first in this case, and not ignoring the senior center side of it, right? But they're kind of self-operating for the most part, but to make sure that, student opportunities are preserved at all costs.
and I think it's important too, for our community to realize and understand that the rec department and the rec sports is not run or affiliated with the school district. It is a separate entity that, based on the Perry Area Joint Recreation District, right? The district is responsible to provide or to appoint two people to the Perry Recreation Board, appointed by the school board, and then each entity in Perry appoints a person from their community. So North Perry Village, and Perry Township all have to appoint someone to create that 5-person board. I think it's important for the community to understand that Perry Rec Department is its own entity. So thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you.
We move on to Dr. Thompson, any administrative updates?
Thank you, Mr. Foley. Yes, I'm very excited tonight to pass the administrative update over to our CFO to hear the latest in our 5-year forecast.
So you should all have a copy. It's just the draft. I just wanted you guys to have it, so you had some time to look over it. If you had any questions before we actually vote on it next month at the meeting. There's really no surprises. We've been talking about this for a couple months now. There were some changes since the last one in May, mainly the increased state funding, the increase in interest revenue, and the decrease in salaries due to attrition. So all of that played in, and you can see there that, as we had said, deficit spending is no longer a thing in fiscal 24, probably not until 25 either. But just like in May, where there were a lot of things that were still uncertain, we're still in that, still have that problem now. Now it's mostly around the property tax and our public utility tangible property tax. Right now, we're about all counties in the state are getting ready to go through like a revaluation, a reassessment, and that's typically used. They typically use the year before data, but we've seen such large increases in house valuations that some counties are looking at up to 42% increases in their property taxes. So the state legislature is very concerned about that, and there's currently, House Bill 187 was passed, in the House last week, it's in the Senate right now, and it wants to change the way that the valuation is done. It would take an average of the last 3 years. That in itself wouldn't necessarily be bad for us, but there's also talk right now, which we're watching, from the Senate, that they want to lower the 20 mil floor, and that would be bad for us, because we are one of the districts that's on the 20 mil floor. So if that we lower them to the floor, we're gonna collect less taxes. And then there's the double whammy, because the new state funding formula, our local share is based on our valuation, not on the taxes that we collect. So we would, in the formula, look like we're collecting more taxes because our valuation would still be higher, but with the lower floor limit, we would actually be collecting less. So it's what they call phantom revenue, where the state says, well, you're getting this money, but we're not.
It looks like it's
Yeah,
there.
it looks like it's there and it's not. So we're gonna watch that. That could even make a change before November, if they make it, if that law passes, if they make a change there. But definitely gonna watch that, because Lake County is in revaluation in 2024. And when we talked to the county auditor, he was, right now, he says it's looking like about mid-30s for our percentage increase here in Lake County. So that number could change, significantly up or down, depending on how everything plays out. The other piece that we want to keep an eye on is, like I said, the public utility tangible. We just were informed last week that the Energy Harbor appealed to the tax commissioners and had their valuation reduced from 68 million to 16 million. And if that were to happen, in our case,
That's their tangible value, not real property.
oh, tangible, yes, tangible, yes. So that would, then we could lose like $1 million, $1.5 million, like that, like that. We did talk to the county auditor. So far, there's been no sign that that has happened for our plant, but last time this happened, they did one year and the other the next year. So, we're kind of not sure what they're doing there either, because the power plant sale is not completed, so that's another unknown here, how that's gonna work out with the valuation, when the sale is completed. So yeah, so it looks good right now. But we should always be kind of watching out for all this.
Our nuclear plant valuation has not changed, the one in Benton.
Right, then,
Carol
Good
did,
Carol, yeah.
not ours.
Davis Bessie. No, ours has not
Okay.
changed yet.
And then if I'm making sure, I just want to make sure I understand, so, as far as what a 5-year forecast is, the definition of a 5-year forecast, in a nutshell.
It's just a tool.
It's a tool.
It's a tool so that we can make a plan. Because yes, you're probably wondering about those deficits in 27 or 26, 27 and 28, which those are normal on a 5-year forecast. Because there is so much uncertainty. 2026, we'll have a new biennium budget. I have no idea what they're gonna do, if they're gonna continue the phase in, if they're not gonna compete, if they're gonna cut back on, we don't know where the economy is gonna be at that time. So conservatively, we did a 2% increase there, which was historically the trend. But this, with the phase in this time, we saw a 15% increase. So it's possible we could see that in 2026. But
I
can't
usually
say that
project
now.
conservatively. I mean,
Absolutely,
obviously, we would want to,
Right, yeah.
because we're saying, worst case scenario could
Right.
look like this,
Right, if
and
we
then
do nothing.
if we
right,
do
this
nothing,
is- Right, this is
but the
where-
reality is, we don't do nothing.
Right, we're gonna,
things
yeah,
change.
we're good, right, so this is just telling us like, hey, this is what we're looking at, let's make sure we're, adjusting and adapting to.
It's a moving target.
Yeah.
It sounds like.
So. I mean, yeah, and you can't put a lot of stuff in it, like attrition can't go in there, so we'll definitely see some retirements in there, but I can't project that until it happens.
Yeah, you can't plug those numbers in.
No, so that'll, at that 47, that's in 2026. I mean, that's one teacher retiring at the top of the scale and being
Yeah.
replaced here, so we'll definitely be able to deal with that.
Well, and I mean, even when we say deficit, if someone were to say deficit spending, we still have a cash balance of 27, 28 million, $26 million in the bank, somewhere
Right, absolutely.
in that range.
Yeah.
That's still our cash balance.
Right, so just deficit spending just means that year we
Mhm.
took in less than we actually spent. It doesn't mean that we don't have any.
It's just your revenue versus your expenditures,
Right.
right?
Exactly. Does anybody have any questions now or?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And obviously with some of the things that are going on now down in the Senate, plus preparing for the annual review of this budget. We're meeting, I believe, next Wednesday, Mr. Gallant, myself and you, CGR group, and probably Benton Carroll, I would imagine, will be involved in that. Put together our plan of getting down to Columbus and knocking on the doors we need to knock on to make sure that, we're being considered before any decisions are made to that bill in the Senate.
Right.
And-
And that also in this forecast, as of 2027, I forecasted that it starts to decline our power plant reimbursement because it's only guaranteed till 2026, but hopefully, we've been able to have that extended, so hopefully that.
You guys have been addressing that for years. I mean, going down, no, it's not.
That's why we go down.
That's why you guys go down. That's what you do and you meet with legislators and.
Yeah.
Go, yes,
In the
Mr. Gallant.
In the law on that, there is no language that says, it says guarantee this amount through 26. There is nothing in the law that says what happens in 27. It doesn't say whether it goes away completely. It doesn't say whether it starts decreasing and phasing out like other districts in the state, or does it revert back to what the former phase out would have been. And so we've kind of stayed silent because we just want to keep pushing out status quo. But that's a huge chunk of our revenue. It's a third of our revenue. The tangible public utilities we talked about, and Benton Carroll is losing $2 million, 2.2 million, I think they said. But our tangible value of the plan is about $86 million. There's just went over the last two devaluations, they've gone from 150 to 14 million. Huge devaluations. So that's the other thing that we go to legislator, we're gonna show, hey, these big hits are why we need reimbursement, or why we need other things. Those are the conversations we have with them all the time.
And that was that plant, again, not ours, correct?
Yeah.
Where does
Now,
our plant usually lie in comparison of value?
so it varies because they had a big devaluation last time, bigger than ours, and maybe this time too, because back in 2015, they had a $200 million renovation to the plant. They replaced things. We never had that. So they had more to devalue because of that. Now, our plant still has 86 million connections to that. Our total tangible valuation is 86 million. There might only be 40 to 50 that's true to them because all transmission lines and railroads, everything else, all added to that dollar. But there's a hit that we can take at some point. If they choose to take that to the tax commissioner of the state of Ohio, we have no standing in that debate. We just have standing in maybe to talk to legislators to say, hey, we can't do it in here, but can we offset it somewhere over here?
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you
you.
very much. I appreciate it. Thank you.
That concludes our initiative update.
Oh, thank you. Dr. Lambert.
I thought that was enough.
There's a lot of
The
information.
floor was still yours, so I didn't want to.
Well, I like that, so
Technically,
I've been told.
okay, do we have anyone sign in for public participation other than Mr. Gallant?
I see none.
All right. Consent agenda. I have a motion to approve.
Second.
Okay, discussion? Questions? Roll call, please.
Mr. Leidig,
Yes.
Mr. Robert,
Yes.
Mrs. Chester. Yes. Mr. Welch.
Yes.
Mrs. Bowen.
Yes. Dr. Thompson, superintendent report.
I think we'll skip it.
Okay.
Yeah. Can
No?
we vote on
No?
that? Yes, we are.
Under personnel, we have an acceptance of retirement. The board is asked to accept the retirement of the employee listed from the position indicated as recommended by the local superintendent and director of maintenance and operations. Under B, personnel acceptance of resignation, the board is asked to accept the resignation of the employees listed from the position indicated as recommended by the local superintendent and director of transportation. Under C, personnel approval of leave of absence. In accordance with the terms and conditions of the collective bargaining agreement, Ohio Revised Code, and her applicable leave balance, the board is asked to approve a paid maternity caregiver leave for the individual listed below for the balance of sick days accumulated, permissible and available as recommended by the local superintendent and building principal. Under D, personnel approval appointment, the board is asked to approve the employment of the individuals listed for the position indicated pending successful completion of required employment paperwork, certification, training, and background check as recommended by the local superintendent. Under E, approval of appointment 21st Century CCLC, the board is asked to approve the employment of the individuals listed for the PHS 21st Century CCLC grant positions and rate of pay indicated as recommended by the principal and superintendent. Funds for this position will be paid out of federal grant funds awarded to the district as indicated and verified through a timesheet for the dates indicated below. F, personnel approval appointment independent study. The board is asked to approve the employment of the individuals listed for the first semester independent study supplemental position at 200 per student for the 2023-24 school year as recommended by the local superintendent and building principal. Under G, personnel approval appointment 2023-24 non-athletic supplemental. The board is asked to approve the individuals listed for the 2023-24 non-athletic supplemental noted as recommended by the local superintendent and building principal. H, personnel approval appointment substitutes. The board is asked to approve the individuals noted for the 23-24 daily substitute positions listed as recommended by the local superintendent and assistant superintendent. I, personnel approval appointment athletic supplementals. The board is asked to approve the employment of the individuals listed for the 23-24 athletic supplemental positions and rate of pay indicated pending successful completion of required employment paperwork, certification, training, and background check as recommended by the local superintendent and athletic director. J, personnel approval appointment athletic volunteers. The board is asked to approve the individual listed as volunteers for the 23-24 sport noted pending successful completion of background check and certification as recommended by the local superintendent and athletic director. Committee personnel corrective action. The board is asked to approve the corrective action noted previously approved June 27, 2023 as recommended by the local superintendent and building principal. And this concludes my superintendent's report.
Thank you. Do I have a motion to approve?
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion or questions?
Yeah, I had a question on. I think it's A and, no, not A, sorry. B and D, because we had someone who resigned and then also is being hired. So do we know why that is? For the same position?
Yeah.
Mr. Gallant?
Yeah, I do. So, Mrs. Ford is a retired bus driver of ours. When you become reemployed, the money, your contribution goes into an account at SCRS. She asked SCRS for access to that money, and they said you have to have separation from your employer for at least 1 day.
Okay,
And during that period, she can request those funds. So she came and asked, hey, could I do that, where we would accept her separation and then have her come back to the day out.
okay. So you can come back and sub.
Yeah, what, you spent the day out?
January 2nd, she's coming back.
You won't give me my regular way of pay, right? Okay, remember?
You can work second.
Yeah, right. Thank you.
The other question I have is, because the approval of athletic supplementals. Indoor track is not a varsity sport, that's a club sport, correct?
It's negotiated bargain supplemental position, but yes, I think you're correct.
But it's not a varsity, it's a club sport, so that still falls under Mr. Rockwell's club sports. And then that's,
That's the way we've done it. in the
Okay.
past, Sure.
Comparison with other club sports.
That's it.
Gymnastics is club. Club versus intramural, right? Or,
right,
or OHSA.
Do we have a gymnastics coach on here?
No, we have no intramural basketball coach in there.
Totally out of topic.
The intramural is the basketball director of intramural basketball, right? Like that.
Not
We run the
coaching.
program.
It's
Yeah.
not a coach, right?
Not a coach.
Yeah,
no.
it's not,
It's a
I think it should
supervisor of
probably
the-
state that.
Supervisor of the supplemental.
Okay.
We should probably change the wording on that then, just so it's clear. No question. Okay. Is that it?
So,
That's under a different section,
okay,
which I'm kind of confused on too. It's under I, I'm not mean on G. I'll put that back in.
Yeah, I make the recommendation on intramural basketball program that falls more under just student activities versus
Student
athletics.
activity, okay, all right, thank you,
And it sits in a different part of the negotiated agreement, it's
Oh.
my understanding.
thank you.
That's correct. It's listed under the athletic team, OHSAA. Not under. It's close.
Student activity or clubs,
Yep.
okay. That makes sense. We done with questions? I just, Denise, what kind of dessert are you gonna want for your retirement party? You might not let you go anyways. But, okay, sadly, I'm gonna go ahead and say roll call, but
Mr. Robert,
Yes.
Mrs. Chester,
Yeah.
Mr. Welch,
Yes.
Mrs. Foley,
yes.
Mr. Lydic.
Yes.
You're still required to attend all meetings.
In another state.
All right, Ms. Capo, you're up.
Thank you. A, approval of financial reports. The board is asked to approve the financial reports from September 2023 as recommended by the chief financial officer. B, acceptance of grant funds. The board is asked to accept the Martha Holding Jennings Foundation grant in the amount of $2,956 and to approve the appropriation for such grant to be placed in the fund 019 SCC 9224 as recommended by the local superintendent and chief financial officer. The grant was awarded to Erica Perry. C, agreement addendum with the ESCWR. The board is asked to approve the 2023-2024 Educational Service Center of Western Reserve Service Agreement addendum to include occupational therapy services for students as indicated on their IEPs as recommended by the chief financial officer and director of student services. Estimated total cost for these services is $74,025 based on current student needs. The approval of 2024 dental rates. The board is asked to authorize the chief financial officer to renew a one-year contract with Oasis Dental West Four Source effective January 1st, 2024 to provide dental benefits for employees of Perry Local School District as recommended by the chief financial officer. E, acceptance of funds, principal of the year. The board is asked to accept middle school principal Robert Knisely's Principal of the Year Award in the amount of $1,000 and to approve the appropriation for such award to be placed in fund of 019 SCP 9324 as recommended by the local superintendent and financial officer. F, approval of payment in lieu. The board is asked to approve payment in lieu of transportation for the students listed during 2023-2024 school year as noted below, as recommended by the local superintendent and transportation director. And that concludes the financial officer's report.
Thank you. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Question, so what is the addendum, the change in letter C? The addendum with the occupational therapy services for the ESC of Western Reserve. Mr. Chisholm, I'm assuming I'm directing it at you, but
Sure.
just curious. I thought we already approved one, so is this additional days that we're adding because of the need of, or what's the addendum?
The
use?
addendum is just the contract is specific to occupational therapy. We approve the services, correct me if I'm wrong, and this contract is just this is the occupational therapy specific contract as opposed to like when we get ESC service provisions in the summer months, what we approve is just a list of services that the ESC provides to us. and there's a bunch of vacancies, and you check off services that they're going to be provided. And so we approved occupational therapy as a service provided, but not the contract itself. It stipulates the number of days, the amount of hours, and so forth. So this is just the contract specific to occupational therapy.
Is this the typical amount that we spend on occupational therapy?
It's significantly less than we typically.
Oh, it
spend on
is.
Occupational therapy, which is why that was one of the, that it was a motivating factor for searching out new contracts at the end of last school year.
Yeah, I just thought we already approved it.
It was approved in the ESC
In the
contract.
whole contract.
This spelled out the dollars.
So, yeah, I was just curious because it was called an addendum on here. So really, it's not an addendum. Is it?
Well, I think it's an addendum to the.
To the overall
ESC
contract?
Yeah.
Okay, do we also contract them PT with them or other services or
He is, Ranko,
is it still Cranka?
Our,
Yeah,
but our,
it's Ranko.
yeah, but our PT provider.
Amy?
is Amy. Is
Yeah.
ESC employee, and she worked at Broadmoor too. And that's entirely different.
Okay. Okay.
But yeah, it's a significant reduction.
But the same amount of kids.
Same amount of kids, same level of service provided.
Okay.
Just to, we use that contract exploration kind of, it's a impromptu way of reevaluating from another provider, what level of provision and service should we be providing based on our student specific needs in case those numbers.
And when the company kind of bid on it, they bid on it with an apples to apples comparison. Saying, hey, here's current caseload,
Mhm.
what would you charge for services to meet these IEPs?
Okay.
And it's required by law because we have to be in compliance with IEPs.
The charges, the
Services.
services.
The services,
is
that's what I'm
absolutely
saying,
required by law.
Okay. Thank you. Any other questions?
The only other question I had is we're approving the appropriations to fund 019 SCC 9324. What is that? Is that the principal's fund?
Is that right?
I'm just curious, but like the middle school principal of the year award,
He was awarded $1,000.
it goes into the principal's fund?
It's separate, because the principal's fund has to be spent on students, the 018, is that what you're talking about?
Yeah.
Principal's fund, yeah, that has to be spent on students. He has a little more leeway with this, so we
Okay.
put it in an 019.
I just, when we approve a fund transfer, I just wondered what the fund was that we were putting in it. A lot of numbers.
It's other grant, yeah.
Yeah,
sorry,
okay,
019.
thank you.
You can go buy a cake
The
with it.
retirement.
Yeah, that's gonna be her cake.
Big cake.
Good idea. He'll be like Johnny with like cake with almond.
It is good.
That's my favorite.
But only if she comes back on the second.
Yeah, she's coming, well, yeah, she has to come to the meeting.
If
I
not,
think,
she-
anyways. We'll see. Okay, wait a second, sorry. Any other questions
No.
in Mrs. Keiko's report? No. So then we are set to do a roll call.
All right, Mrs. Tresker?
Yes.
Mr. Welch?
Yeah.
Mrs. Foley?
Yes.
Mr. Leidig?
Yes.
Mr. Robert?
Yes.
Okay, is there any unfinished business anyone wants to talk about?
Are there any updates to our solar eclipse?
April
plan?
No, I have heard none. I think the idea that the governor was gonna come out and make any type of resolution for the state is a no. And so, again, looking at and hearing from the emergency management system and groups that it would be my recommendation to call that a calamity day based on the significant traffic that apparently follows this eclipse that I know our safety forces are really concerned about the potential of travel time being extremely difficult. And so with that in mind, it would be my recommendation at this point.
Can we act on that now? And just be
I
done?
would rather wait because it's always cloudy in Ohio. No,
Or just
I'm kidding.
I think the sooner we can notify parents so they can
All right.
prepare for it, the better. But if we do a calamity day, that Doesn't, I mean, it used to be a rule that if there was a calamity day, you could do extracurriculars and things like that. We could still certainly allow our kids to do their that might have been years.
Well, we
ago.
haven't ironed out those details, because if it's
Right,
not
we
the
wouldn't-
eclipse that we're worried about, it's the traffic.
Right,
So,
If-
you know,
We'll
putting
figure
our
it out.
kids on campus to practice and do those things might be fine, but if we're gonna travel to Independence, that would be a
probably
no.
not a good idea, yeah.
So, you know, I think we should probably meet with TJ and work out some of those details. But I could certainly have a recommendation for you at the November meeting.
And so we don't have school Mondays, April 1st, because that's the day after Easter, I believe. So this would be the following Monday. So the 2
Okay.
Mondays in a row. but just that way. So can we officially act on it? Do we need to act on it since it's approving our calendar or no?
We said it next meeting,
I'll bring it to the board, there'll be a recommendation on,
make
The
it more
agenda.
formal. But heads up, we're probably going to have April 8th off.
yeah, I mean. I don't know what I mean, we, you know, put it out there, but
You just made the recommendation.
it still seems early to be making that recommendation, things change.
Yeah.
Right now. Yeah, yeah, the world can shift, right?
Okay, sorry. That's it.
Any other old
Thanks.
business? Oh, yeah, unfinished, not old, sorry. Is there any other unfinished business? Anyone? Any new business? Just, we're approving April 8th. That's new, we have new calendar.
I have a calendar.
Oh, no, we're not gonna talk about calendar, it's way too early.
We don't have enough time. We don't have enough time. for
There's
that.
not enough time to talk about calendar.
Yeah,
We need a whole work session for that.
You better just
I'm collecting,
schedule a Sunday or Saturday, just quick on the sheds.
All right,
I'm gonna seek support.
yeah, we got a meeting.
Have a long work session.
Could be a meeting.
Next time
Great
I want to
idea.
consider it as the next one.
Yeah. All right, correspondence and announcements. Communications to board, anyone? Anything pressing? At the moment, there's always communications coming through, but we can say that. Upcoming events and meetings. Let's see. The next scheduled meeting is Monday, November 20th. We moved that meeting to that date because of a holiday and because the week before is Ohio School Boards Association. There's no classes on Wednesday, November 22nd, 2023, the day before Thanksgiving, and the district will be closed on November 23rd and 24th because of Thanksgiving. Public participation,
I see none.
there's none. Thank you. Do I have a motion to adjourn? Thank you. Roll call, please.
Mr. Welch?
Yeah.
Ms. Foley?
Yes.
Mr. Lydic?
Yes.
Mr. Robert?
Yes.
Yes.